We will call tonight's July 5th Minot City Council meeting to order. Roll call.
Berg.
Here.
Franzfog. Hedberg. Janser.
Here.
Coulson.
Here.
Lehner.
Here.
Olson. Pankow.
Here.
Padragula.
Here.
Schuler. Here. Schimento.
Here.
Sitma.
Here.
Straight.
Here.
Withis.
Here.
Barney.
Here. Pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we get to item 3, I want to remind everybody on the council and those in the audience, if you have your cell phone with you, if you would please either turn it off or mute it. We would be grateful for that. Item number 3 is the approval of the minutes from the June 6th regular City Council meeting and the June 28th, 2016 special City Council meeting.
Mr. Mayor,
Alderman Lehner.
move 3 and 4.
Second.
Move 3 and 4. That includes the approval of the bills and transfers for June 2016. And it's been moved and seconded by Janser. Any discussion? Any discussion? Call the roll.
Lehner.
Yes.
Pankow.
Yes.
Padragula.
Yes.
Schuler. Yes. Schimento. Sitma.
Yes.
Straight.
Yes.
Withis.
Yes.
Berg.
Yes.
Janser.
Yes.
Coulson.
Yes.
Motion passes. Item number 5 is personal appearances. This is an opportunity on the agenda for anybody in the audience to speak to the council on any item that is not on our agenda tonight. Any item not on the agenda. Yes, sir. Come forward. Identify yourself, name and address for the record, please. Well, if he does, he hasn't gotten it. An ordinance, I couldn't hear what type of ordinance you were referring to again. Was it dog? Dogs. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I do recall that now.
2 or 3 months ago I was in here.
And City Attorney, do you recall that issue?
Mr. Mayor, I don't recall that issue, but we do have ordinances for nuisance animals, and
Yes.
anytime that happens, you can contact the police department, and they have animal control officers that investigate those types of violations.
I did. I went to the police department, and the lady, she was real nice about it, and she said she would contact the person. And if it had been a kids or a lady, I would not have been out there. But when a man came out there, I raised hell. And I will do it again.
Okay. Did the police department then investigate that matter for you, and did
I
they
don't know.
resolve it?
I have no idea.
Captain White, could you come forward, please? You thought you weren't going to have to speak. Captain White, would you meet with this gentleman after the meeting and take down his information and follow up for him to make sure that this issue is resolved to our
Certainly.
satisfaction? Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Jones.
And the Langdon paper, where I read that, where they have an ordinance about that.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else that wishes to address the council on any item that is not on our agenda tonight? Anyone else? Seeing no one, we are going to switch our order a little bit, and I'm going to ask City Manager Staub if he would give his report prior to mine. Mr. Staub.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. What I'd like to do is just update, for those that are new to the City Council, I try to provide this on a monthly basis, and what I try to cover is the things that I think are most important for you all as members of the City Council, but also the public. And so this is a report that's compiled by all the department heads, and these are the issues that I think are most important for the community today. I want you to notice the fact that Derek Hackett, our public information officer, is there. And what we're now doing is we're streaming this live for the first time ever. So you can go home and you can watch it when it's done also, because we'll archive it when it's finished. But for all of your loved ones that have never seen you on camera before, they get to watch you for the next 90 minutes or however long we're going to be here tonight. So you might want to give a couple of hellos to your kids that are watching in the on the Ethernet this evening. So just wanted to tell you that, and it's very easy to access, and last month's City Council meeting is on there as well, so you can see that. But we'll be doing this on a monthly basis, and then we will address the capability to do this on a better basis starting in 2017 when we complete the 2017 budget. These are the upcoming events and meetings, and you can see all of those are there. What I want to highlight for you is the one that's listed on Monday, July 18th, the open meeting, the Neighborhood Improvement Park meeting. It'll be 6:30 p.m. located at the vicinity of the old Ramstead School. And what we're going to do is we're going to try to figure out what we do with that green space that's there. And so we're going to have a public meeting there for anybody who wants to attend, but specifically for the folks that live in that area. And on a Thursday, the August 4th, we're going to have a meeting on the downtown public gathering space, and that will be located in Oak Park. We thought it would be better to have these on locations where we're potentially going to be doing some of the work or having it in an outdoor space. So I wanted to make sure that everybody's aware of that as well. And you can see our next City Council meeting will be prior to that on Monday, August the 1st. What you have in front of you is what the city staff over the last few months, this has taken us about 6 or 7 months in order to complete this City Council Guidebook. And there's about 53 pages of text that's there. It's an overview of many of the departments and how the city government actually works. So for all of you that this is your first time, I thought it would be important for you to get a copy of that. And then it lists all the different committees and commissions and everything else, and the frequency of meeting, et cetera, et cetera. And that's also going to be available online, so anybody can read through that. It highlights specific points for City Council, and you can see that those items that I wanted to highlight for you as part of the briefing, so you can go through that in your at nighttime and read through that so you can see what that's all about. And then again, the hard copy is provided, but digitally it's online at that address that you see in front of you as well. Construction update. Our downtown infrastructure project, the phase 2 is underway. The concrete's now being placed, and you can see there's a photo of what we did last week. And we're progressing there pretty well, with the exception of the rain that we've had today. And Mark Lyman is going to hand out a detailed update on what's going on that project, so you all can read that information in more detail. And we have copies that will be available to the public as well. So I just want to let you know that that's progressing quite well, and we're pleased with the work that's being done. And it actually is a lot less issues than we faced last summer. Oak Park Bridge replacement. You can see the work that's being done there. We're about a week behind schedule right now, but we still anticipate the fact that we'll be done in time to open the road up for the school year that will start in about a month and a half from now. And the detour routes are in place. We tried to update the signage as necessary in order to make sure that everybody understands exactly where they need to go. But that work, I was down there on July 4th actually, and there were some workers that were doing something on the site, so I was pretty pleased to see that. The water treatment plant, if you drive through there recently, you can see some of the flood walls, and you see that in the picture in front of you. So that work is progressing pretty well, and we don't have any major issues associated with that. The 6th Street pump project, that is finally, I know that we've opened and closed that roads many times during the course of the last 12 months, but I think now that we put the concrete in place for the sidewalk and everything else, we are done with that project. And now it's complete. We've tested it and everything else, and so everything has worked out quite well. So I'm finally glad to say that I think that project is coming to a closure. 37th Street Avenue Southwest project, if you've gone out there recently, we're in the midst of doing a lot of work out there, but touring it by tennis-shoe over the past weekend, I can tell you that it's progressing quite well, and as long as the weather continues to be favorable to us, I think that we'll be able to finish that on schedule as well. 36th Avenue Northwest project, no major issues there as well. So you can go up and see that project at your nauseam. And if you want to, the city engineer will be glad to, if you've never been to any of these project sites, the city engineer will be glad to escort you there. The Hillcrest Drive retaining wall project, no issues associated with that. The substantial completion date is still scheduled to be on the 21st of October. And I want to thank the folks that live in that area because I've looked at that project site many times, and the access and egress out of that is something that you just have to put up with for a few more weeks, and then we'll be finished. The National Disaster Resilience Competition, we're moving on forward with the entire program, and what we're trying to do is develop a coalition of community support. And as I mentioned to you last month during the public update, that is the most important thing that we're trying to do here, is to make sure that we get that public support. Because without that public support, we won't be able to define exactly the scope of work that's going to be done. So with the two public meetings that we have coming up, one in July and one in August, that will begin that level of public support that we need in order to make sure that we bring this program to fruition over the next several years. The neighborhood recovery, this is a picture of the existing vacant land at Ramstead School. This was taken today. So you can see there's 11 acres out there. In order to make sure that we do this right, because there's many agencies that are involved, the Park District, the School District, the City of Minot in particular, so all of those organizations have to come together to figure out exactly what we're going to do with this. We need to be able to, at that public meeting, we're going to be able to refresh and refine ideas that came out during the initial concept. And most of the time, the people that live in that area said, we've lost our neighborhood. So we want to get our neighborhood restored. And that's the intent of what we're trying to do at that Ramstead site. And I encourage all those folks to be out there on July 18th. And if, in fact, we have some issues, then we'll move that to the auditorium. And I know Scott took that as a tasker in order to make sure that all that was set up that night. Okay. The downtown public gathering space, that will be on the 4th of August, as I already mentioned. And we want to make sure that we're able to build upon the concepts that are already in place. And we're tagging onto another event that will occur the same night in order to make sure that we get more participation from the public. So I encourage you all to attend. This is a picture of Lake Darling, and this is part of the Minot Decision Support Tool. I presented this to the International Sewer Server Board on June the 14th. We had lots of agencies that were present at the time. We then briefed the United States Army Corps of Engineers and looked at that on how that can use to support the USACE feasibility study. And so we're working with USACE in order to make sure that it's a tool that can be used by those organizations to include, and we've had conversations with the North Dakota Water Commission, the Sewer Server Joint Board, the ISRB, and lots of Canadian water authorities as well. So it's a very cooperative arrangement. And when we're all done, we will be able to use this decision support tool by all authorities along the Sewer Server Basin. That question came up during the ISRB meeting, and it's something that Minot is developing, but can assist all of those folks and all of the agencies and all of the locations that are along the Source River. Affordable housing study update. I met with those folks today. We plan on trying to push this out to make sure that we get all the correct information. So that housing study update will be done over the next few months. We're building upon the information that we developed during the first two phases of the competition in order to make sure that all of the information that we're gathering and presenting and analyzing is actually up to date. So we want to make sure that that is current. The Family Shelter Committee, the last bullet on there says that Vulnerable Populations Committee meetings are key, and that's very true because we need to make sure that we're involving all those people that will help not only to develop that family home shelter, but would actually be able to run it and operate it in the end because it's a life cycle cost, and it's something that has to be defined as we move forward with this activity in the HUD competition. The buyout program. We had discussions with the North Dakota Water Commission. Those have been successful to date. And as you know, there's a cost share that has to be arranged out with the State Water Commission on exactly what's going to be the percentage of the local share and what's the state share, and each of those agencies has to agree. So we're in constant communication with them. And then you can see, here's a picture of a couple of the properties that still will be bought out as part of the buyout program. So what this does show you, these pictures were taken today as well, so there are still some blighted properties that remain within the city. If you haven't seen some of those areas, you can go down in some of the low-lying areas. You can find properties such as the one that we're showing you here today. And the last item that I want to cover is really our 2017 budget schedule and key dates. Our proposed budget and annual plan will be presented next month to the City Council. What we're going to do is we're going to give you a copy of that budget. Then over the next 2.5 weeks, you're going to have an opportunity to go through the entire budget. And then we'll have a committee of the whole meeting when you can answer all the questions and answers that you have on August the 18th. At that time, myself and the department heads will give you an overview of the entire budget. We'll show you what the originally submitted budget was, what the resource-constrained budget is, what comes up above the cut line and below the cut line, and how that lines up in what we did in 2016 and what's projected for 2017 as well. And then finally, there will be two city council meetings on September the 12th and September the 19th. And after the September 19th meeting, the budget will be finalized. Anybody have any questions on
Any
anything
questions for
that
Mr.
I've
Staub
said
on
so
his
far?
report? Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I have one more item.
Go ahead.
And I'm going to read this to the mayor and the city council, and I'm going to give you a copy of this as soon as I'm finished. This is dated July the 5th today, and it's written by myself. Okay? Throughout my professional career, I've had to make tough decisions, and this is a very difficult one for me. It is with my utmost respect to the citizens of Minot that I will submit my resignation as a city manager effective August the 20th of 2016. For the past 2 years, it has been my privilege to work for and with the citizens of our community, as well as the elected officials from both the current and the previous city council. Throughout my professional career, I've always made the decision to serve both where and when I was called to do so. This was evident throughout my military career and for the last 10 years since my military retirement. Upon arriving in Minot 2 years ago, I was embraced by this entire community. For that, I will always be and remain thankful. It was my intent to serve all the citizens of Minot and provide a small level of assistance in dealing with some of the complex issues that face our city. I want to thank all of the citizens that have given of themselves to assist in meeting those challenges and in developing solutions that will serve our community for many years to come. During the past 2 years, I've once again put my family and my personal life aside. I've always been willing to do that. During the past few months, however, I've had several changes in my personal life which necessitate my regretful and tearful departure from Minot, North Dakota. I am grateful that the citizens of our community will respect my decision. For the next 7 weeks, I will continue to work on behalf of all of the citizens of our Magic City, and I look forward to continuing to make progress in the weeks ahead. Serving in public office or working for the city of Minot is a very difficult task. I have the deepest respect for all those who put themselves in front of the public every day with the only intent to serve the public. I've been privileged to serve with many outstanding persons who have chosen to serve our great nation. I've been equally honored to work with the department heads, the supervisors, and the entire workforce here in Minot. You are truly public servants. Respectfully submitted, Lee A. Staub, City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Staub. I'm not going to entertain questions at this point. I'll let you address those after the meeting. And I'm going to go straight into my report because it's going to dovetail with what you just said. Mr. Staub shared this with me just a little while ago, not that long, and it's with very mixed feelings that we approach this. It's a loss to our community, but I moved to Minot for personal reasons, family reasons, and Mr. Staub is basically doing the same thing, and I respect that. Doesn't make me any happier, but I respect the decision for what it is. Along those same lines, these are big shoes to fill. very big shoes to fill. We've made tremendous progress in the 2 years that Mr. Staub's been in our community. And I don't want slip back. I don't want slippage back to what was, or I want to keep pushing forward. To that end, I directed the HR department to begin the preliminary process of replacing Mr. Staub, and I suggested that we go about it in the same manner in which we found Mr. Staub. And Lisa has been working on that since a couple of days ago when this all came out. So we are not waiting. We aren't going to wait. We're going to move forward, and we are going to find the very best candidate for this community, and we are going to continue pushing forward using the momentum Mr. Staub has given us. So, thank you. I do have a few other items on my agenda, or on my report, that I'd like to address. I wanted to let you know that we have a meeting, we requested a meeting with the governor in the very near future to discuss cost sharing on our projects coming up. We want to get that, we want to get a commitment from him this fall, and so that we can begin our planning process in terms of budgeting and getting the process moving. I have some appointments that should be on your desk. I'd like you to consider those appointments and offer me a motion.
Mr. Mayor,
Alderman Lehner.
I would move all of your appointments.
Second.
Seconded by Withus. Any discussion on the appointments? Any discussion on the appointments? Call the roll.
Laner,
Yes.
Pankow,
Yes.
Padragula,
Yes.
Schuler. Yes. Shemento. Sitma,
Yes.
Straight,
Yes.
Withus,
Yes.
Berg,
Yes.
Janser,
Yes.
Coulson.
Yes.
Motion passes. Just on a more personal note, I will be taking vacation beginning, depending when this meeting is over, and I will be returning back to Minot on Sunday. I will be here for a week, and then I'm leaving again to go see my son in California. I leave on the 18th. I'll be back on the 25th, and so I will be out of the city during that period of time. That concludes my report. City Attorney,
Mr.
Mrs.
Mayor.
Hendershot.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor and members of the council, I submitted a written report, and the only thing I wanted to highlight in that report is the open records, open meetings training. Our office set up a training to take place with an assistant attorney general from the North Dakota Attorney General's office, and that is scheduled for Monday, July 18th at 1 p.m. That's for city staff, members of the city council, and many members of the planning commission, and I just wanted to remind everybody of that.
Thank you. Any questions for Mrs. Hendershot? Any questions? Thank you. Item number 8 is the consider the report of the Planning Commission. Who would like to bring that?
Mr. Mayor,
Alderman.
I
Excuse
would
me, Lehner?
move consent on all 4 items. I would move consent on 2, 3, and 4. I believe, is it number 1 that we?
Are you pulling one?
I think is 1 is there 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm pulling 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think 1 is the one that we need to discuss.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Schuler. Anybody else in the audience care to have any of these items pulled? What will happen is that these items will be passed as they came out of committee. And if there's something that you want to discuss or change the outcome of what happened in committee, now would be the time to let us know, and we'll pull them for further discussion. Seeing no one, call the roll.
Laner,
Yes.
Pankow,
Yes.
Padragula,
Yes.
Schuler. Yes. Shemento, Sitma,
Yes.
Straight,
Yes.
Withus,
Yes.
Berg,
Yes.
Janser,
Yes.
Coulson.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor,
Alderman Lehner.
I was there. I'll move number 1, too. That is not the item that we need to discuss. I'll move number 1.
Okay.
Second.
Seconded by Janser. Any discussion on 1? Any discussion? Call the roll.
Laner,
Yes.
Pankow,
Yes.
Padragula,
Yes.
Schuler. Yes. Shemento. Yes. Sitma,
Yes.
Straight,
Yes.
Withus,
Yes.
Berg,
Yes.
Janser,
Yes.
Coulson.
Yes.
Motion passes. Item number 9 is consider the report of the Finance and Improvements Committee meeting. Alderman
Mr.
Pankow.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor?
Janser, did you want to handle that under other business?
We can, sir?
Let's do that.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, Finance had 14 items on the agenda, would like to move on all items except number 14.
Okay. Any other items to be pulled?
Can we pull 5?
5. So what this means, again, is that all items except for 5 and 14 will be passed as they came out of committee. Items 5 and 14 will be addressed individually. So if you want any of those items that except for 5 or 14, let us know, and we'll pull those for you. Seeing no one? Call the roll.
We need a second.
Do we need a
Second.
second?
I'll second.
Cozen?
Pankow,
Yes.
Pajagulia,
Yes.
Schuler,
Yes.
Shimento, Sitma,
Yes.
Straight,
Yes.
Withus,
Yes.
Berg,
Yes.
Janser,
Yes.
Cozen,
Yes.
Laner.
Yes.
Motion passes. Alderman Pankow?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move on number 14.
Can we go to number 5 first?
I'm sorry.
Amend the 2016 annual budget, Service Pro 4 tablets and accessories, Verendry Electric Trust Grant.
I would refer to Mr.
Is that-
Alderman Withus since he pulled that one.
I'll move 5.
Okay, move
Okay.
5. Want to
Second.
second it? Seconded by Janser. Discussion, Alderman Withus.
Yes, I don't know who decided on service pros for the people that are in the field, but we're paying $1,900, but there's a grant for $1,000, so we have to pay, about $1,000 for the computer equipment? And I was just wondering if somebody had looked at alternatives. Surface Pro 4s are pretty good for if you're sitting in an office or in a meeting or something like that, but not really great if you're out in the field.
Do we have somebody from city staff that wants to address that? Ms. Bai.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Alderman Withus. The research was done by our VISTA volunteers and our IT department, and so between them describing the uses that they were going to be doing and the IT making some recommendations and doing some research on pricing, that was what they had come up with.
Okay, I was just wondering, because, there's some other stuff that's out there that's like not nearly as expensive as Surface Pros that are a lot better for field work, and I just,
Certainly, I think, Mr. Mayor and Alderman Withus, it also had something to do with what they're accustomed to working with. A lot of our division heads and department heads use the Surface now at meetings and things, and they're compatible with what we're doing currently, so.
okay.
Any further questions, Alderman Withus? Any further questions for Ms. Bai? Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Any further discussion on the item? Any further discussion? Call the roll.
Withus,
Yep.
Berg,
Yes.
Janser,
Yes.
Cozen,
Yes.
Laner,
Yes.
Pankow,
Yes.
Pajagulia,
Yes.
Schuler,
Yes.
Shimento, Sitma,
Yes.
Straight.
Yes.
Motion passes. Item number 14,
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move number 14.
Second.
seconded by Janser. Discussion. Discussion. This generated a lot of discussion at Finance. Alderman Shimento?
How much actual cash are we talking about?
Was it in the,
No.
It's in the letter that was.
There's a
Yeah.
breakdown somewhere.
that,
14.7.
prior to tonight's meeting, there was some discussion about this item, and I think if I could clarify it with the help of Mrs. Greenhack, the initial item is for services provided from September until January. Then the 2017 budget kicks in, and we will be looking at providing similar services from January until May, basically, for the school year. The 2016 budget already has the money in it to provide it for the remainder of this calendar year, but we will be discussing the 2017 budget for in the next few months. I think that it would be prudent to consider what we're going to do in 2017 with money when we're doing the actual budgeting process. But that is up to the council. Discussion? Alderman Laner?
Maybe we need Mrs. Greenheck to clarify this, but I think the contract, the 2016 contract, if I'm not mistaken, kicks in September and goes through January 17th. That's already been budgeted for this year. The next year's budget would actually kick in next fall, going through, if we keep it on the same schedule, going through January of 2018. Is that not the way I understand it?
Mrs. Greenhack?
Mr. Mayor and Alderman Laner, my understanding from Cindy Hemphill is the contract would go from September through January. However, Renee Corslane's back here saying it's actually from November to February. So that's a
Well-
very good question.
Who is the, do we know when ICE actually goes in?
Still don't know how much money we're talking about.
Hi, my name is Jared Olson with the Minot Park District. Ice for this season goes in, starts November 5th to January 22nd, goes out from the 23rd to the 31st of January, excuse me, for the Ag Show, goes back in February 1 to February 21st for the ice season at the North Dakota State Fair. So it's approximately 99 days of ice.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Olson? Any other questions? Thank you, sir. I think that, and I don't think anybody here questions the value of ice, but I think we all also understand that we are in a different economic climate than we were in years past. And the budget going forward is going to be challenging. The 2017 budget is going to be challenging for all of us and the community. And that's why I would prefer to have the opportunity to assess all of the needs of the community at one time during the budget process, instead of doing them piecemeal like what we're doing right now. So, further discussion.
Mr. Mayor, if we
Alderman
approve,
Svetma.
if we approve this tonight, are we locked in then for the remainder of next year's contract as well?
That's my understanding.
Mr. Mayor?
Alderman Laner?
By the remainder of next year's contract, Alderman Sitma, you're referring through the February 21st?
Correct.
Right, okay, yes, I believe we are.
Alderman Janser?
Okay, so the question I have is, if this expenditure was already approved for the 2016 budget, and if the letter that we received is correct in saying that the reason that it came before the committee was because of the increase, but that now that increase is no longer being requested, do we need to act at all?
I think the motion on the floor, though, is for what came out of finance, which was the increase, I believe.
Okay.
That's,
Alderman Chimeno?
and I guess that's what I'm trying to figure out, because I really don't know. There was so much approved for the budget, but now they're looking for an increase, but I truly don't know how much that increase is.
Alderman Schuler?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In speaking with Renee, the 3% increase that was initially requested was withdrawn. So really, it's just, we're looking at the same numbers that we originally approved. What happened, though, in finance was that first original increased amount was the one that was approved and sent to us. So really, what we would need to do is probably make a motion for the original amount. Would that be correct, Attorney Hendershot?
Mrs. Hendershot?
Mr. Mayor and Alderman Schuler, since the motion on the floor is to approve the increased amount, an appropriate next step could be to amend that motion to be the previously allotted amount, and then we would vote on the amendment and then the original motion.
Alderman Schuler?
Mr. Mayor, I would make that motion then to reduce that amount. I believe it was $44,600. Let me look here.
You're making an amendment to the
The standing,
motion on the floor.
yep.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Laner. Discussion on the amendment and the amendment to reduce. Discussion on the amendment. Anybody in the audience wish to discuss the amendment to the motion? Third time. Call the roll on the amendment.
Schuler,
Yes.
Chimento,
Yes.
Sitma,
Yes.
Straight,
Yes.
Withus,
Yes.
Berg,
Yes.
Janser,
Yes.
Cosin,
Yes.
Laner,
Yes.
Pankow,
Yes.
Padragula.
Yes.
Discussion on the amended motion. Any further discussion on the amended motion? Alderman Janser.
Just a question maybe for the city attorney. So we already approved the original amount in approving the 2016 budget, I believe. Do we need to do anything more? I mean, if the motion before us is back to that same amount, is it necessary for us to do anything?
Mrs. Hendershot?
Mr. Mayor and Alderman Janser, I guess that's up to the council to decide. It was previously approved, is my understanding, in the prior budget. However, it is an item on our agenda. I don't think that it hurts to just do that final confirmation.
Does this tie us over to 2017 budget?
Mr. Mayor, it's my understanding that this is just for the amount.
Okay,
It doesn't.
all right. Very good. Further discussion? We will vote on it. Further discussion? Anyone in the audience care to comment? Seeing no one, call the roll.
Pankow,
Yes.
Padragula,
Yes.
Schuler,
Yes.
Chimento,
Yes.
Sitma,
Yes.
Straight,
Yes.
Withus,
Yes.
Berg,
Yes.
Janser,
Yes.
Cosin,
Yes.
Laner.
Yes.
Thank you, Alderman Pankow. Item number 10 is consider the report of the Public Works and Safety Committee. Alderman Schuler.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We had 11 items on our agenda. I would move consent on all 11 items except for number 3 because we have a late correction.
Okay,
Second.
seconded by Laner. Anyone else care to have any of these items pulled for discussion? Anybody in the audience? Yes, sir.
Mayor, I would like to pull 10.
Number 10. All right. Thank you, sir. I'll call you up when we get to that item. We're on consent. Anybody else care to have any other items pulled? Any discussion from the council? Call the roll.
Schuler,
Yes.
Chimento,
Yes.
Sitma,
Yes.
Straight,
Yes.
Withus,
Yes.
Berg,
Yes.
Janser,
Yes.
Cosin,
Yes.
Laner,
Yes.
Pankow,
Yes.
Motion passed.
Padragula, sorry.
Yes.
Motion passes. Item number 3, Alderman Schuler.
Number 3 was the Hydrocomb's 5th edition development agreement. This evening, we received some minor corrections to this agreement. I would move it to the floor for discussion.
Are you moving it with the corrections?
Yes, please.
Second.
Seconded by Janser. Discussion with the corrections? Discussion, anybody in the audience?
Mr. Mayor?
Alderman Schuler.
Thank you. Could we just have Lance come up and just briefly tell us what these minor corrections
Mr.
were?
Meyer? Alderman Schuler.
Thank you. Just wanted a clarification of what these minor corrections were.
Certainly, Mr. Mayor, Alderman Schuler, very minor, we just added on the traffic study, just some language that says the developer is the one responsible for having that traffic engineer done and then submitted to us. And then we added a section that basically just says, before they can install any city infrastructure, they have to annex that development into the city minor.
Any other questions, Mr. Mayor?
Thank you.
Anybody else? Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Further discussion? Anybody else? Call the roll.
Schuler,
Yes.
Chimento,
Yes.
Sitma,
Yes.
Straight,
Yes.
Withus,
Yes.
Berg,
Yes.
Janser,
Yes.
Cosin,
Yes.
Laner,
Yes.
Pankow,
Yes.
Padragula.
Yes.
Motion passes. Item number 10, Alderman Schuler.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Number 10 is amendments to the zoning ordinance supplement to the city of Minot. I would move it for consideration.
Second.
Seconded by Shimeno. Sir, this is the one you wanted to speak to. Would you like to come forward? Please state your name for the record and address.
Mr. Mayor and Alderman, my name is Wayne Munson. I'm with Indigo Sign Works here of Minot. First of all, I want to commend your staff and your steering committee headed by Alderman Penko. You guys reached out to us, asked for our opinion as far as being in the industry. We have spent the last several months working together with you to create an ordinance that will move us forward into the growth of your community. As we've talked through this, and this is wordsmithing, and I apologize for it, but I want to try to make sure that we all are on the same page. It certainly helps my staff to make sure that we're all in the same area. Sections 22.8.3, 22.9.2, and 22.10.2. In your freestanding sign area, you ask or you talk about wanting to have multi-tenant signs sharing spaces for all of the tenants. Yet when we go down into that specific last line of that section, the code is restricting us to 80% or 50 or 60, depending on which code, of the primary ID sign. Now, at one point, we removed the word cabinet so that it was primary sign area, and that's how your code currently reads. The recommendation or the request that the industry would have is to add to the end of that sentence, as allowed by lot frontage. I give you an example of a case of a Cenex or a Shell gas station. You have a primary ID sign, and then you have secondary signs below that. If you only allow a secondary signage of 80% of the primary ID sign, primary sign area, we are restricted to 80% of that top sign being 56 or 64 square feet. That limits the amount of signage. A typical Cenex is going to have a hot stuff pizza, a gas pricer, and maybe a changeable copy sign. You eliminate 2 out of those 3 signs on your standard Shell, Holiday, Conoco Cenex. If you add that verbiage in, that allows us to get that customer 80% of the allowable main sign area of 150 or whatever the street frontage allows. At the and I've had conversations with staff and Alderman Penko, and I think we're all in agreement that the adding of that word, that verbiage is okay. The one that we would like to take back to the steering committee is at the very beginning of that sentence, it talks about all secondary tenants and or digital displays. We would like that to read every. In a situation where you have a multi-tenant, you have a strip mall, they have 5 tenants, your maximum sign area is 150 at the top, you're allowed 80% for all of the tenants combined. If I have 5 tenants in that building, you're only giving each one of those approximately 17 square feet if they decide to also have an electronic sign. That 17 square feet is too small to be seen by the traveling public to be safe. And so we'd like that portion to go back to steering committee for consideration, but we do recommend adding the verbiage to the end of that sentence if it meets your approval.
Mr. Pankow?
Mr. Mayor, I would like to call on Scott with SRF. I believe he was on vacation at the last meeting, and I would like to hear the committee's comments on that one item of adding those verbiage to the end of that paragraph.
What about the other stuff that
We would be fine, I believe Indigo Signs is fine with taking back the beginning portion of the paragraph to relook it, but are fine with the committee or the council moving forward with it as is today.
Scott, I don't know your last name.
Scott, I'm sorry.
Scott Harmstead with SRF Consulting.
What was the last name again?
Harmstead.
Harmstead. Thank you, sir.
Thanks. Yeah, we are in agreement to add the language that Mr. Munson had provided to the end of each of those sections. I can state them again, Section 22.8A3, 22.9A2, 22.10A2, just adding allowed by the lot frontage to the end of that.
Okay, thank you. Don't go anywhere. Alderman Pankow, if you're in agreement with what the two gentlemen have been referring to, do you want to make an amendment to the motion, sending those portions back to the steering committee for discussion and moving the rest of it forward?
Yes.
I was hoping you'd say it.
I guess there's a lot of nuances to the sign, so it's hard to get the motion 100%. The identified, I'm going to have to list out every section.
Can we send all of that back to the steering committee and deal with it? Send what we all agree on forward, and then the sections that where you have word changes, send that back to the steering committee and then address all of these changes at one time? So we don't have to, because if we try to do it here, we don't understand it because we don't have it in front of us.
Mr. Mayor, I think what we could do is add this verbiage to the sections of which Scott has identified. Leave everything that is there that has been asked by the steering committee to move forward by the council, and then we will look at the items identified by Indigo Signs and come back with a text amendment at a later date.
Is that your amendment?
Yes.
Did you get that? All right. Is there a second to the amendment?
Second.
Schuler? Okay. Discussion of the amendment. Discussion on the amendment. Call the roll on the amendment.
Pankow,
Yes.
Padragula?
Yes.
Schuler?
Yes.
Shamento?
Yes.
Sitma?
Yes.
Straight?
Yes.
Withus?
Yes.
Berg?
Yes.
Janser?
Yes.
Cosin?
Yes.
Laner?
Yes.
The amendment passes. We have an amended motion on the floor for discussion. Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Anybody else in the audience care to address this? Call the roll.
Schuler?
Yes.
Shamento?
Yes.
Sitma?
Yes.
Straight?
Yes.
Withus?
Yes.
Berg?
Yes.
Janser?
Yes.
Cosin?
Yes.
Laner?
Yes.
Pankow?
Yes.
Padragula?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Does that complete your report?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That does complete my report.
Thank you. Item number 11 is consider the report of the airport committee. Alderman Olson is not here tonight. Is there somebody here from airport?
Mr. Mayor.
Alderman Laner?
I'll take that one. We've got two items on the agenda. I'd move consent on both items.
Second.
Seconded by Shomeno. Discussion. Both these items will be pulled for, or will be passed as they came out of committee. Discussion. Call the roll.
Laner?
Yes.
Pankow?
Yes.
Padragula?
Yes.
Schuler?
Yes.
Shamento?
Yes.
Sitma?
Yes.
Straight?
Yes.
Withus?
Yes.
Berg?
Yes.
Janser?
Yes.
Cosin?
Yes.
That concludes my report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Alderman Laner. Item number 12 is consider the report of the Liquor and Gambling Control Committee. I believe Alderman Withus is covering that.
Mr. Mayor, we had 3 items on the Liquor Gambling Control Committee. Recommend consent on all 3 items.
Second.
Seconded by Berg. Discussion, all these items will be passed as they came out of the Liquor and Gambling Control Committee. Discussion? Call the roll.
Withus?
Yes.
Berg?
Yes.
Janser?
Yes.
Cosin?
Yes.
Laner?
Yes.
Pankow?
Yes.
Padragula?
Yes.
Schuler?
Yes.
Shamento?
Yes.
Sitma?
Yes.
Straight?
Yes.
Motion passes. That concludes your report, Alderman Withus.
Mr. Mayor, that concludes our report.
Thank you. Item number 13 is consider the report of the Community Development Committee. Again, Alderman Olson's not with us. There were 4 items that came out of that committee. Number 4 has been pulled from consideration. There were 3 remaining items. What's the committee's wishes?
Mr. Mayor,
Alderman Janser,
I move consent on those 3 items.
Second.
seconded by Laner. Discussion. Discussion? Anybody in the audience care to comment on these items? Call the roll.
Janser?
Yes.
Cosin?
Yes.
Laner?
Yes.
Pankow?
Yes.
Padragula?
Yes.
Schuler?
Yes.
Shamento?
Yes.
Sitma?
Yes.
Straight?
Yes.
Withus?
Yes.
Berg?
Yes.
Motion passes. That concludes the report of the Community Development Committee. Item number 14 is other business. We have 2 items on there. We'll have a third in a minute. I know that we have some people here that want to bring up another item. So let's handle them one by one. Approval of the budget schedule.
Mr. Mayor?
Alderman Janser,
I'd move that.
Second.
seconded by Withus. Any discussion on those dates? Any discussion? Call the roll.
Janser,
Yes.
Cosin,
Yes.
Laner,
Yes.
Pankow,
Yes.
Padragula.
Yes.
Schuler,
Yes.
Shemento,
Yes.
Sitma,
Yes.
Straight,
Yes.
Withus.
Yes.
Berg.
Yes.
Motion passes. Item number 2 is the adopt-a-lot.
Mr. Mayor, I'll move that.
Thank you, Alderman Janser.
Second.
Second by Laner. Is there any discussion, any questions? Any discussion? Alderman Schuler?
One simple question. Who would be responsible for maintaining, mowing, and snow removal of these lots if we enter into this agreement?
Mrs. Hendershot?
Mr. Mayor and Alderman Schuler, the Park District would be responsible for that, and Mr. Merritt's here in case you have any other questions.
I don't think so. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or discussion? Any other questions or discussion? Call the roll.
Janser,
Yes.
Cosin,
Yes.
Laner,
Yes.
Pankow,
Yes.
Padragula.
Yes.
Schuler,
Yes.
Shemento,
Yes.
Sitma,
Yes.
Straight,
Yes.
Withus.
Yes.
Berg.
Yes.
Motion passes. And I know that Alderman Janser had another item that he wanted to bring forward under other business.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, there was an item from planning that was denied. It was the AGT variance, and I know those folks are here tonight. I guess I'd like to give them the opportunity to bring that item to our
You want
attention.
to put a motion on the floor first, or would you rather they just spoke?
I think we'll just have them speak.
Who, Mr. Knudsen, come forward, name and address for the record, please.
Address. Les Knudsen with,
Oh, now you broke it.
with AGT Foods, 625 42nd Street Northeast, Minot, North Dakota. I appeared before the committee, the Planning and Zoning Committee last Tuesday, and it was denied. We'd made a request for a variance to avoid paving the parking lot, at least for right now, of our facility, because we have gravel roads leading up to the facility, and it seemed kind of silly to pave the parking lot when you got gravel roads leading up to the facility. The variance is the mechanism that was in place to do so. But I probably should have done it a little differently and asked for a delay or something like that, but I don't know what that mechanism is. This body, I believe, has the authority to deal with that. It's not that we don't ever want to pave the parking lot, it's just we can't make sense out of doing it now and trying to upkeep it when we got gravel roads leading to it. So, and at the time when the city's comes through and paves the road and does the things that the city's supposed to do at some point, then we'd be willing to put in writing and sign off that we'll be complete that part of the zoning ordinance, because at that point it makes some sense that you can have paved roads leading to a paved parking lot. And that's the request I'd like to put before you.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Knudsen? Alderman Janser.
Mr. Knudsen, I reviewed the variance request, and it didn't actually, as you point out, didn't refer to a timeline or a triggering event that would indicate that you would be willing to do the paving as was originally in your building permit. So I guess that's a change of having this variance go out forever, essentially, versus doing it at a time certain based on what happens with the road. So I understand that. And I guess the question I have for you is, are you currently using this new building at the present time, or, do you have a temporary certificate of occupancy, or what's the status of that?
We have a current facility that we are using. We're just in the final stages of finishing up an addition. We had about 100,000 square foot. We added a 31,000 square foot addition, but due to the, I don't know how the math works, apparently that's over 60% addition. I think it's of the original facility or something. I don't quite understand how that math works, but apparently it did. And that triggered us having to pave the parking lot, because we originally didn't have to. The original certificate or building permit required us to put down crushed asphalt for dust control, and that's what our parking lot is built out of, is crushed asphalt. So now this new addition triggered us having to pave 129 spaces for employees. We have about 80 employees now, no more than about 35 at any given time, because we work 24/7.
Perhaps the better alternative then is to send this back to planning with the new information that you've provided us and have it go through that system again. Pardon me?
Wouldn't it be an appeal?
I don't think it would be appeal, just a reconsideration. So,
Mr. Mayor,
Alderman Schuler?
Thank you. I'd have a question for Mr. Meyer, if he wouldn't mind coming
Before we release, any further questions for Mr. Knudsen? Alderman Schmano?
My understanding is about $400,000.
Any other questions for Mr. Knudsen? Thank you, sir. Mr. Meyer? Alderman Schuler?
Thank you. Would this have time to get put on to the July planning meeting if we were to send it back? I know when you do an appeal of sorts, it has to be relooked at. Do we have time to still get it on that agenda?
Mr. Mayor, Alderman Schuler, I believe so. We just have to make sure that it meets the public hearing notice deadline. I think that's around 10 days before the July meeting, so we should be fine.
More questions?
And this is not an appeal. We were just sending it back. I'm sorry. Yes, Alderman Schuler.
One more question. Is there plans to pave those roads out there in the future? And if so, who's paying for those paved roads?
Well, Mr. Mayor, Alderman Schuler, the area out there is referred to as the Port of North Dakota area, and MADC has some land holdings in the area as well. Right before we flooded, we were working with MADC to develop a project to pave a portion of 42nd Street. Because, just for general knowledge, the city of Minot doesn't improve or pave roadways unless it's on a federal system where we would do a system expansion. So if someone comes in to develop a subdivision or industrial site or whatever it may be, that developer is responsible for installing that infrastructure, whether it's underground or above ground. We do allow above ground special assessments for like street lighting and pavement. That said, after the flood, that project went on pause. The funds were then turned back to MADC, I believe, and that project has been sidelined with the anticipation that when the Port of North Dakota area continues to grow and develop, then that roadway infrastructure would be installed. So right now what we have to work with is we have sewer and water serving the area, and I think there are street lights out there on a portion of it, and then it's a graveled rural section. And so the thought would be someday when we see more development that a project would be put forth in some regard to install a concrete street section in that area.
So currently there are no plans to do that, though.
That's correct, Mr. Mayor. We do not have anything in our CIP.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Meyer?
Mr. Mayor?
Alderman Bluthus.
So the reason for the paved parking lot, is that for dust control?
Mr. Mayor, Alderman with us, there's several reasons why we feel it's important to have paved parking lots. Dust control is a very good example as to why that would be. It's easier for folks with disabilities, wheelchair access, you need a hard surface. Gravel doesn't meet that definition, so there had to be some sort of pavement or concrete there for ADA compliance. Just general aesthetic look of our city. So we require paved surfaces for employee parking, customer parking, drive aisles, things like that. If it's an industrial site where you have warehousing or you're going to be stockpiling equipment and materials, we don't require that to be paved just because of the expense. And on some of these large industrial sites, there'd be acres and acres of paving. That doesn't make any sense. So we just require customer employee parking areas, the drive aisles to get to those. And that's it.
Any other questions for Mr. Meyer? Alderman Cozen.
The gentleman before you spoke of 129 spots. Is that just, that's based on a percentage of square footage, or?
Mr. Mayor, Alderman Cozen, what we do is we do a calculation based on the square footage of the building for the use. So for instance, a Applebee's would have a different parking ratio compared to an industrial building. So it's a calculation based on some published documents that we use. We look at the square footage of the building, and then we make a call based on that.
Okay.
Any other questions for Mr. Meyer?
Yes.
Alderman Padragula.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Meyer, what would the funding situation be like when the streets around it are paved? Would that be specialed out, or would MADC funds be used, or do you have any sense of that?
Mr. Mayor, Alderman Padragula, I do not at this time. Like I had mentioned to the mayor before, we don't have it budgeted in the capital improvements plan, or the CIP we call it. You'll see that at budget time. There are multiple ways to fund infrastructure projects. Special assessments are one of those. Developer donated assets is the most common, where the developer installs it. Once it meets city specs, it's donated to the city Minot, then we maintain it for life.
And you have no sense of when that nearby areas might be paved, years, or indefinite?
Mr. Mayor, Alderman Padragula, because of where we're at with the development of the port area, I don't have knowledge of that right now.
Thank you.
Alderman Schimeno.
The gentleman before you said that there's 85 employees, but no more than 35 or 40 working at a time. Would you be willing to cut that 129 down to 45, 50, 45 or 50 spots to make it more palatable, maybe?
I don't know that we have the authority to do that.
Mr. Mayor,
Alderman Pankow.
question for the city attorney.
Mrs. Hendershot.
Is there a mechanism, since we have this situation of funding and our market environment has changed, so we know that there's going to be some delay in the pavement of this roadway. It is an unusual circumstance that these people are put in, obviously, but is there a mechanism for us to put a time certain on when they need to pave their lot in accordance with the pavement of the street? Can the Planning Commission forward us a recommendation like that?
Mrs. Hendershot.
Mr. Mayor and Alderman Pankow, the Planning Commission can put conditions on the granting of a variance. Whether or not the Planning Commission would recommend entering into an agreement, I'm not sure. I don't know what leverage the city would have years down the road to force somebody to pave a parking lot at a later date. Now, that would be something that would have to be considered, I guess. We haven't done something like that since I've been here, but.
Alderman
Mr.
Pankow.
Mayor, follow-up question to that. Just like the gentleman stated, is we don't use development agreements yet. Somewhere in the future, we have some at some point. He's willing to sign a document that would carry over. I would imagine he would be willing to carry that over to new ownership, so it straddles several years, so that stays with the property. If such a document could be created, do you think it would could be accepted?
Mr. Mayor and Alderman Pankow, we'd have to review a potential document, development agreement, or whatnot, and just see what the parties would be able to agree to, I guess.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Alderman Janser.
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to make a motion to send this back to the Planning Commission.
Is there a
for-
second?
Second.
Seconded by Pankow. I get to pick and choose.
All at once.
It's the only thing they've ever done it together. Discussion on sending this back to, no, there is no discussion on sending something back to committee, is there? I don't believe there is. Call the roll.
Janser.
Yes.
Coulson.
Yes.
Laner.
Yes.
Pankow.
Yes.
Padragula.
Yes.
Schuler. Yes. Schumento.
Yes.
Sitma.
Yes.
Straight.
Yes.
Withers.
Yes.
Berg.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Second.
Item number 15, we are in line for adjournment.
Mr. Mayor, I get to pick and choose.
I recommend adjournment.
It's the only thing they've ever done it together.
Former alderman that sat in that seat would
Discussion
always
and
make the
formal
adjournment
discussion.
motion. I see you're carrying on that noble
I-
tradition.
Committees are-
All those in favor of adjournment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're adjourned.
Dancer.
Yes.
Coulson.
Yes.